How to stay motivated as a business owner. So today we're going to talk about three things. We're talking about how to stay motivated and avoiding burnout, the pros and cons of delayed gratification, and then ways to reward yourself. Now, this feels like I must have batched a bunch of podcasts before this because I feel like I haven't podcasted in a while, and I'm really excited to talk about this today. And here's the deal. It is a lot of hard work making business look this easy. And I am very sorry if I have fooled any of you in thinking what I do on a daily basis is easy, because it is not easy. I work hard. I am always thinking about my business. And here's the deal. It's fun when I'm winning, but I haven't always been winning for the last 20 years. Okay. And the beginning of building a business never feels like winning, right? The beginning is brutal. And then when you break through and you actually have like a real business and things are going well, then you get hit with something you've never been through before. And owning a business, it's not just like running a race or running a marathon. It's like running 17 back-to-back marathons, right? And staying motivated is not easy. And burnout happens way too often. So a big question that I always get is, how do I stay motivated? Okay, so I've got a bunch of ideas and things that I am currently doing, and hopefully a few of these will be good ones for you to take on. So for me specifically, setting goals is one of the ways I stay motivated. There has to be something I look forward to. There has to be something that I want to achieve. I'm very growth minded. It is truly not about the money for me. If anything, it's about like the next level of the money to have achievement. Like I am wired through achievement. So setting goals and setting a goal of something I've never done before really motivates me. I also surround myself with people that have already hit those goals. So even though for me, these are big things that I haven't done yet, I want to be with those people who are doing it, right? Because why? I'm going to up my belief when I see, oh, well, this person is like not any different than me and they have done it. It makes me believe it, right? We had Amanda Tress. She's the founder of The Faster Way to Fat Loss. She came and she spoke at our Powerhouse Mastermind back in February. And she came into the building and I happened to be somewhere where I ran into her. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Like you've grown this business to like this incredible, whatever it is today. I'm like, I think she had like 40,000 clients. And I'm like, that is insane. And she was like, oh, really? Like, I mean, I know it's big, but we're shooting for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. So like in my mind, I don't think that anymore. I'm like, oh my goodness, she doesn't think 40,000 is big, right? Now, she is very grateful and loves her community. But she's like, in my mind, I'm thinking like she's hit it. And in her mind, she's like, oh, we're just getting started. And even just listening to her, it made me up my game. Okay. I'm also always working with a coach, or I shouldn't say coach, or a coach and part of like a mastermind. Those are usually where I find the big thinkers, the big dreamers, like all of that. And actually, Amanda and I met through a mastermind. Okay. So the next thing is having a vision board. And honestly, I have to update mine very soon, mostly because I have a lot of the things on my vision board. Now it's like come to life. So I want the next level. All right. But I think the vision board is really key because it's ways that I will reward myself. And then not only that, like, so the vision board has like things I want to do, but then it has like ways I'm going to reward myself. Okay. So that's huge. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. I think the next thing is I'm pretty good at celebrating. I shouldn't even say that. I'm probably not as good as I could be, but celebrating milestones, like big or small. What am I going to do now that we have done X, right? What are we going to do now that revenue has jumped to this or whatever it is? How can I celebrate milestones, right? You have to think about this. If we're running 17 marathons in a row, we're not going to reward ourselves after the 17th marathon. Like that would be silly. How can we reward ourselves at like halfway point of the first one, right? And then the first one, right? Keep going. Another thing is I keep cards, text messages, like screenshots, DMs, screenshot reviews. Like I actually have a file of amazing things people have said about me or the business or, just how we've impacted them. And that motivates me when I see that I am making a difference. When I read your podcast reviews, like every time a new podcast review comes in, my team sends it to me. Every time I read that, it makes me want to do better on the podcast. It reminds me that I'm not just talking to an empty microphone in my office, right? That there are actually real people listening and they like it. Okay. So having a file, whether it's physical cards, like sometimes people will mail us stuff, or I get a DM, any of that stuff. I keep like the ones where I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is why I do what I do. Okay. Highlights list. Okay. I have been slacking on my highlights list and I need to pick this back up. So I started doing this maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm kind of bummed because I probably haven't done the last like 6 months of this. I have been, to say busy just sounds like a cop out and like an understatement, right? Like I have been more than busy. This year, this 2023 is just, it is a year we will never forget. Like we have hit just, I mean, I could do a whole podcast on just that. We will for sure triple our revenue. We have already hit 2022's. So by May, so really by at the end of April, 4 months in, we had already hit 2022's gross revenues in the first 4 months of 2023. Like it is insane. So at a minimum, we are going to triple our revenue. I actually think we could do like, I have no idea. I mean, it's going to be a crazy year. Like it already has been a crazy year. So anyway, that's why I have been kind of slacking in the highlights list. It's actually probably the most I could have put on there, but I've been so busy. I haven't even been putting it on there. So what I've been doing is anytime I'm like, oh my goodness, I get to do this, or, oh my goodness, I just did that, or I can't believe we had our biggest launch ever, or I can't believe whatever. I will go over to my whiteboard and I have pieces of paper and I have one from 2020, 21, 22, et cetera. Need to add to the 2023 and I can still do it, guys. I can still go back. Now, I have a feeling I won't capture everything because something you thought that was amazing, a year ago, today you're like, is that cool? Right? Something that maybe one time you said, if I just had 1,000 email subscribers, right? But now you have like 2,700 and 1,000 seems like nothing. You will miss the milestones if you don't like capture them in real time. So that is huge. And I'm going to go back to that because whenever I'm having like a bad day sometimes, or I'm just like, I failed or something happened, I go to that list and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm amazing. Like I've done some big things, right? And it really puts things into perspective. Okay. Another thing I want to share, giving yourself time off. Okay. You can't work 24/7 and stay motivated. It is not a long-term strategy. Okay. So I do not work nights or weekends, but I definitely did in the beginning. And I want people to hear that. Okay. The question becomes, the problem I should say, is what point are you good enough to stop? Like in the beginning, we're willing to put in the work, but the problem is some of us are on year 6 or 8 or 12. And we have not transitioned to the point of we don't need to work weekends or weeknights or whatever anymore, right? So you've got to get really, really good at figuring out when have I maybe, I don't want to say earned, right? Or when are you deciding it's just time? Okay. Next, I am big on taking care of myself. Working out or not working out when I'm just feeling exhausted, like really listening to my body, getting sleep, eating healthy, taking walks outside, right? Like just anything I can do to really take care of me. Getting massages. I get a 90-minute massage every single week. And it's amazing. And I'm thinking about the day I can start getting 2 a week because I love them so much. Okay. Another thing is continuously refining your calendar and removing things off your plate. It feels like a reward when I get to say, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to give it to this person, right? Doing less, not more, is one of the things I have done continuously. I was just working with my coach and I was about to add something pretty big to my to-do for the summer. And they were like, no. We're not going to do more. We are going to refine what you've got going on. I'm like, I love it because it's easier than starting from scratch and doing something new, right? The next thing is not beating yourself up when you fail. You guys, I fail all the time. I make mistakes all the time. I have hired the wrong coach. I have bought the wrong mastermind. I have thought something was going to be genius and then it didn't work for me. I fail daily. but I don't beat myself up for it. I'm just like, okay, lesson learned, never doing that again, right? And then along those lines, really staying positive and looking for the good. I rebound very quickly from failures, from negative things that are happening, from little mess ups. I am like, okay, that sucks. Moving on. What is the good here? What did I learn here? Right? Whenever I mess up, I always think we had a pretty large mess up. I shared this in Well-Oiled Operations when I was coaching live a couple weeks ago. We had like about $100,000 mistake that we made. Yeah, that was not fun. However, I mean, I was probably over it like in an hour or two. And this is where I look for the good. I'm like, well, number one, I financially can lose $100,000 and not stress. My bank account, I don't feel it. I won't even realize it's missing. I think things like, I'll just make more. I know how to make more money. That's amazing. I know how to turn on like a money-making machine in my business. Perfect, right? I think of things like, good thing we made this mistake now, because when we double our business again, like we're just scaling so quickly and we're on a rocket ship right now. We are going. And I was like, you know what? That could have been like a $200,000 or $500,000 error. I'm really happy we fixed it now when it only cost me $100,000. These are things that I say to myself to get over it and to move on. Okay. I also want you to know that I have had patterns of hard work and then rest. Hard work some more, then some rest. Okay. I think some of you are thinking me or other people are just like climbing a ladder, hard work, right? And really what you have not seen in the last 20 years, if I were to draw a little graph here, it would be me climbing up and then like getting comfortable and just really resting and like letting it soak in. And then while I'm resting, at some point, I'm a little bored. I'm like, let's do it. Game on. Let's climb it again. And then I rest. And then I climb it. And then I rest. That is huge. And then the last thing I want to say is learning new skill sets. So this is interesting. I have had phases where I thought I was burned out, but I was actually bored. Somebody brought that to my attention. I'm like, oh my goodness. I literally thought I was burned and I needed to rest, but I wasn't getting out of this funk. And they were like, but you like to challenge yourself. What if you learned something new? What if you took on a new skill set? What if you right, anything? And that was exactly what happened, because all of a sudden I started to consume again and learn a new skill set. And I got excited about the new opportunity. So are you burned out or are you just bored? Something to think about. Okay. Now I want to talk about delayed gratification, because I just told you, like, you got to stay motivated. You got to do all these things. But sometimes I see people doing things a little too early in the business or in a season that the business is not doing well. Okay. So my businesses needed me massively in the beginning. And then there were seasons and stages they needed me again. So like the pandemic was a big one, right? So here's the deal. I have been really good at delayed gratification. When I build my businesses from the ground up, I am super, super cheap personally. I am pouring all of my money, like literally 100% of my money is going into my business. Okay. I have lived well below our means always. Like there has never been a time that we have not lived. And I don't mean just below our means, like well below our means. Okay. So right now we have a nice house. We actually have two houses. We have two nice houses. We have nice cars. We take nice vacations. Okay. But here's what I want you to know. I could have much nicer houses. I could have way nicer cars. I could have way crazier vacations. I could, but I'm not. So even right now, as I am rewarding myself, there's some delayed gratification in my rewards. Okay. So for instance, this is not the value of my house, but I just want to share with you. My point is, let's say I have $1 million home. I'm saying, again, fake numbers, I could afford a $2 million home, but I'm choosing to not. Let's say I could afford a $250,000 car, but I chose to get one for $100,000. Does that make sense? So I'm still, even at this moment of I own multiple 7-figure businesses, right? We are in great shape financially. I could be blowing way more money than I am. We live well below our means. Does that make sense? Okay, I want to hit that home for you. Because in case you're watching me and you're like, I want a nice house like Stacy, or I want a nice car, or I want to, remember, I haven't always had these things. And we may have different financial situations. Okay. All right. So here are the pros of delayed gratification. Number one, I believe it is long-term success. I believe that temporary sacrifice can reap the rewards of long-term success. Everything that I enjoy now is because at some point I made temporary sacrifices, right? The year before we built our home. Okay. So when did we build our home? 9 years ago. At the time, I still had a 7-figure business. Okay. So we were still doing pretty well. We lived in our parents' house with Tanner. Okay. That was just 9 years ago. For a whole year, we just saved our money and just poured it back in. Actually, we were building this business at the time and then building our house, right? So even like things like that, I was doing. So you see this house now, or you see certain things now, and it's because of things I did before. Okay. This is where I love the Dave Ramsey quote, live like no one else, so that later you can live like no one else. I feel like we're in the second phase of that. But if you would have seen me 15 years ago, you would have seen me living like no one else, meaning we were definitely experiencing delayed gratification and just being very, very cheap, right? My first house I bought was a duplex. We lived in the bottom and we rented upstairs. Most, 20 something or however old you were when you bought a house, most people, most first-time home buyers are not ecstatic about living in like a condo feeling, right? Where you have neighbors that you can hear every conversation all day long, right? We made temporary sacrifices. That house we eventually sold and made very good money from it, right? So there are a lot of things we did like that, okay? Another reason I love, and I will say this too, I would work on weeknights and weekends back in the day. And now I don't have to because I did that work. Okay. Another pro for delayed gratification is reinvesting in the business. I believe my businesses grow so quickly in the beginning because I am giving it 100% of my time, my money, my energy, my resources. So some people, I'm watching them and I'm like, your business, I know your business needs the money, but yeah, you're buying the purses, you're taking the vacations, you're upgrading your house. Like I've seen people that are struggling financially in their business and they're literally selling their house and then upgrading homes. And I'm like, to me, that's just not been my strategy. I would rather settle, pour into my business, so later I get to have all of the above. Does that make sense? Okay. The next piece is, I believe, less risk. So when you practice delayed gratification, you don't have to worry about a lot more things that maybe others are having to experience because they've made all these purchases and they stretched themselves a little too thin. Okay. And then the last piece is, I really believe that delayed gratification helps create discipline. I love talking to 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs. And one thing that I have noticed on all of these people is they are so disciplined. And I believe that that is a very great skill set or characteristic to step into if you want to build something really, really special in your business. Now, there are some cons of delayed gratification. I think the biggest one is waiting too long and not rewarding yourself can lead to you burning out, right? I also think that maybe you think you're saving money by not paying yourself or rewarding yourself, but sometimes the lack of productivity because you're not motivated is costing you so much more. So when I finally started paying myself, I immediately got like this boost of energy. Like it just felt different because I was getting paid for my time, right? So be careful with those cons and knowing when it's like time to not delay gratification and actually reward yourself. So let's talk about ways to reward yourself. Okay. So first one I want to bring up is start paying yourself or give yourself a raise. Give yourself a bonus, maybe pay yourself a distribution, right? Buying something on your vision board. So when you achieve something on your vision board, okay, I just had this happen, right? I just achieved something that's been on my vision board that I can't share yet. that I was so excited about. And I then bought myself something on my vision board to celebrate. Okay. So what I actually really like to do is I like to pre-spend money. When I say pre-spend, I don't mean actually go buy it. I mean like deciding when I hit this, I'm buying this. When we bring in 20 new clients, I'm going to go get a massage. When we bring in an extra 100,000 from this, I'm going to buy that. Like I like doing that, right? So what's really cool is I had this car on my vision board for at least like the last 7 or 8 years. And what's funny is my delayed gratification almost kicked in when I just bought my car this week. So I was looking at a luxury car, but I was looking at one that was like a few years old, really good deal, felt very practical, very nice, but still not like what I really wanted and not really even like this big reward. Okay. And I was having I was having a lot of conflict of like, which one should I buy? And Kent was like, what if you weren't practical? What if you didn't think about money? What if you weren't thinking about what other people were going to say or their opinion? What car would you buy? And what's funny is it was neither of the cars that I was considering. I was like, oh, I would buy the Range Rover. And it's like, then get the Range Rover. Like, what are you doing? And it's so funny because I wasn't even considering the car that had been on my vision board for 7 years. I can afford it, but wasn't considering it because I am so good at delayed gratification. And sometimes we've delayed enough. Sometimes it's like, go buy the dang car, right? So it's so funny because we had been looking for a little bit and all of a sudden, I think we bought that Range Rover within like 3 days of deciding we should just buy it. So yeah, it was definitely not an inexpensive purchase. I paid for it in cash. And here is where I think I realized like this was the right car for me at the time is I won't even miss the money in the bank account. Some of you would miss the money. Some of you would notice it's gone. Some of you would have anxiety over it, or you could put that money in your business, right? Some of you, maybe in my situation where you have the cash. In fact, the cash is just sitting there and you're not doing anything with it, right? So again, know your situation. Know where you're at. I also spoke to my financial advisor that day who was like, she pretty much told us, and this was another way of like, this is a reward. So the day I spoke to my financial advisor, she literally told me that we could stop working now and live the lifestyle I had told her I wanted to live like for the rest of my life. She was like, you're there. You're there. Like you're done. And I was like, we're about to buy a car. I'm not sure which one. And she's like, you can buy whatever car you want. It literally doesn't matter. And I went back after that meeting and I talked to Kent and I was like, okay, let's go get it. Right. We're at a place where I want to reward myself. I have worked hard and I have the financial means to do it. And it was time to do it. Okay. Now that is an extreme situation. However, we're in a place that the business is booming. And personally, we are doing very, very well as well. Okay. Now there are other things you could be doing that don't cost you $1. Okay. So take time off. Like, what if you just gave yourself off half day on Friday, full day on Friday? What if maybe you don't spend money on a vacation, you just take a staycation, right? You take off for a week of work and you don't leave your house, but you just don't work. Or maybe you have a little money and you want to do a staycation somewhere nearby, right? Where there's no flights or anything. You're just going to a hotel. Maybe you can afford a real vacation. Maybe you have not been on a vacation in a long, long time. Okay. Another thing, you could be doing like self-care, massages, spa days, facials, right? I reward myself sometimes by joining another mastermind. Here's the deal. My best friends have come from masterminds I've paid to be in. Like my one friend jokes, like my best friends are the ones I bought. I know it sounds so weird, but I'm like, I totally agree with you. Paying to get in those rooms, there's just different people there, right? There's different people that are like free masterminds. Yes, can be great, but it's a different person. Somebody who's just joining a free mastermind versus they've spent 25, 50,000, 100,000. It's a different person, right? And I will reward myself by joining one of those high level masterminds and invest in these relationships. That fuels my cup, right? And then maybe even just making time for a hobby or learning a new hobby. I just had to fill out, somebody gave me this sheet and said, your favorite hobbies. I hate that question so much. I'm like, wait, should I have hobbies? I don't even know what I put down on there. Okay. But maybe it's finding a new hobby, figuring that out. And then what I will say is rewarding yourself consistently. So daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. So I'm just going to give you a few examples. So daily could be, I'm going to reward myself with a walk outside, like me time, or I'm going to reward myself with a bath before bed, right? Weekly could be, we're going on date night or we're having like a family night out for dinner. Monthly could be you get a massage. Quarterly could be you take a vacation. That might be a lot for some people. So maybe quarterly is more of like, we're going to go somewhere for at least 2 nights, even if it's close by, and just take a break, right? Or maybe quarterly is I'm taking a week off in my business, whether you go somewhere or not. And then maybe annually is give yourself a good raise. You're probably doing it for everybody else. Like do it for yourself, right? So here's the deal. I think delayed gratification has been something that has helped me grow quickly. But it's about the balance of knowing when I need a reward and when I need to remind myself I'm doing a good job. Because without those rewards, it can lead to burnout. It could lead to resenting the business, and none of that will serve you. So I would love for you to share this podcast on Instagram, tag me and tell me how you reward yourself. I love seeing other ideas. Maybe I'll steal one of those or somebody else is going to catch it and go, I need to do this. This is a really important message that I don't think is talked about enough. Okay. So let's spread this message together. And I want to hear what you have to say about your reward.